Hi, I'm Carla with Race to Walk. Thanks for joining me, and I'm going to be sharing my 10 books in 10 days book tag. But before we get started, a little bit about this channel. Here we share good thoughts about good words, and on Fridays I host a live Bible study on Instagram at Race to Walk, and then I publish 2 videos a week. I publish a video about books, and then I also publish a replay of that Bible study video. So if you are interested in either of those things, be sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you can get updates about new videos. So earlier this year, I was tagged on Facebook actually by my friend Zach, and it was basically you're supposed to post 1 book a day for 10 days. And this is the text of the tag. I accepted the book challenge from your friend that tagged you, showing 10 books that I have particularly enjoyed, that influenced me, and that I recommend. 1 book per day. No explanation, no critique, only the cover. Each day, I will ask a new person to accept the challenge. Let's promote a books and reading culture. Today, I nominate, and then the person. So the interesting thing about this is I actually did a little bit of research on this tag, and it started like probably about a year ago, and it was 7 books. So 1 book a day for a week. And then it morphed to 10 books in 10 days. And then about 2 generations before, when my friend tagged me, it had morphed into this particular text for the tag. So I'm going to share the 10 books that were that made my list, and I'm going to give a little bit of explanation for them because I obviously didn't do that when I did it on Facebook. So my first book is Apologetics for the 21st Century by Louis Markos, and I have a video called The Book That Changed My Life about encountering this book and how it led to me eventually joining the apologetics program at Houston Baptist University. And this is basically an overview of the area of apologetics in the 21st century. It's a really interesting book, and if you're unfamiliar with apologetics as an area of study, then this would be a great book to start with. So my second book that I posted was the first edition of An Unexpected Journal on the Abolition of Man. And I posted that one because it was just such a kind of like a marker, a turning point. It was something that a group of friends, we came together, we started this journal, and it just kind of launched kind of like a whole new adventure, really. We're going to be publishing our 11th issue. We're in our 3rd year now in September on the medieval periods. So my third book is Boundaries by Henry Cloud and John Townsend. And this is a book, the subtitle is When to Say Yes, How to Say No, and Take Control of Your Life. And some people may not even understand why this book is even a thing. But for those of us who have trouble setting boundaries, you'll know that this book is actually a lifesaver. This was published in 1992, and I've read it several times, and it's just such a great reminder of what like healthy boundaries actually look like. So if that's an area where you have challenges in your life, I definitely recommend that book. So the third book is When God Spoke Greek by Timothy Michael Law. That was published in 2013. And it's a book on the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Hebrew Tanakh, or the Old Testament. And this was kind of, when I read it, it's kind of like opened up a new world to me as far as in the area of biblical studies. It just made me realize that when Jesus and the disciples were on the earth, this was the Bible that they quoted from the most. And so this Greek translation really shaped a lot of their understanding of Scripture. And so if you really want to understand what Jesus means in a passage, or what the New Testament writers mean, you really kind of have to study the Septuagint and its translation of those Hebrew passages to really get it. So I've mentioned this in a few of my Bible studies. Like I have a Bible study on the prophecies of the virgin birth. And I mentioned in that Bible study that when Isaiah gave his prophecy, he probably speaking about a particular woman at that particular time. He probably didn't have any idea of the extra layer of meaning that prophecy had. But by the time of the translation of the Septuagint, which was 200 years before Jesus was born, that was their understanding. They were expecting that to be a virgin birth. So I think that it kind of can give a little bit a better perspective. That's part of the reason that in my Bible studies on the parables that I've really been looking at, okay, is there something that this parable of Jesus is drawing on from the culture? And that's what we've been doing, for the past couple of months, is really looking at those cultural influences on the stories that Jesus told. Okay, the next book, number 5 is That Hideous Strength by C.S. Lewis. This was published in 1945, and it's the third of his, everybody knows it as a space trilogy, but if you want to call it his interplanetary series or the Ransom trilogy or the Cosmic trilogy, it's the last in that series. When I read that book, I was like, holy crap. It talks a lot about propaganda, misinformation, manipulation, and there was just, when I read it, there was so much so many parallels that I saw to what is going on at the time when I read it. And it still has a lot of parallels to what's going on today. I do have a video on that book, and I talk about like the parallels between 1984 and That Hideous Strength. So the 6th book is The Moon is Down by John Steinbeck. This was published in 1942. And John Steinbeck has been one of my favorite authors since I was a teenager. So this book is about an occupied town and their struggle against this oppression. It was actually written as kind of an encouragement to these two areas that were occupied by Nazis at the time. So there is this never giving up, this understanding that what people are fighting for is something that is bigger than themselves, that there is a greater good, and that they won't give that up regardless of what happens to them personally. But the other thing that I really like about this book, and I see this in all of John Steinbeck's writing, is that even though they're the enemy, he doesn't dehumanize them, and you see them as people that have their own conflicts. And that's something I think that is really unique about John Steinbeck's writing, is that he's able to kind of always see things from the human perspective, even when those humans are in a position that isn't really that great. So my 7th book is actually Supernatural by Dr. Michael Heiser. This was published in 2015. So Supernatural is actually the shorter, more popular level version of his book Unseen Realm. And I do have a video on that, and I have a review of Supernatural on my site at Race to Walk. And I think that I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail because I do talk about my video on this as well as my written review on Supernatural, but it really kind of helps you, just like that when God spoke Greek, it sets the stage for Jesus's teachings and what the disciples understood. This really kind of sets the stage for what the entire journey is. So a lot of times I think that we look at Christianity just as us individually, and it's kind of like this side thing to our life. And in Supernatural, you see that there is it kind of sets the whole stage. It looks at the big picture. And so, we realize that we are part of this greater effort for a greater good. And I think it's something that most people probably haven't been taught at church. So when you read the book, you really can't read the Bible in the same way. I think it also helps you kind of see your life okay, well, what is really going on here? There are, Paul says in Ephesians that we battle not against flesh and blood, but against powers, principalities, spiritual forces of wickedness in high places. So what does that actually look like? On a day-to-day basis, what does that actually look like? And I think that Supernatural helps us kind of get the proper perspective. Okay, my book number 8 is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. This one I love. He published it in 1952. And what's interesting about this book is that I always saw the thing that stood out to me about it was the sort of mentor relationship between Samuel and Adam. And then after I'd read this book multiple times, I saw the movie East of Eden. It was really obvious that the writer or the director, whoever was responsible for the overall message of the movie, what stood out to them in the book was the relationship between Adam and his son. And so this desire for approval. After seeing the movie, I read the book again, and I was like, yeah, that's there too. And I think that's the thing about, great literature, is that there's so much in it that, you can get more than one thing out of it. Book number 9, Spirit of the Rainforest by Mark Andrew Ritchie. This is kind of related to Supernatural in a way, because again, a lot of times in the church we kind of come off as we say we believe in this supernatural God that's outside of space and time that came into our world and died and rose again. A lot of like wild stuff in that statement, but we live our lives like naturalists, like we don't actually believe it. And Spirit of the Rainforest is an account of a tribe in the Amazon rainforest that literally encountered that supernatural world on a day-to-day basis. And what the difference was when they were following the powers of the world and when they came to know Christ. So I love the book. I love it. I do have a review on that one as well as several other of Mark's books, but I will link to those and you can check those out as well. And the last book is Invisible Enemies by Jim Croft. I do have a video review on that one as well and how I came across it. And this is his realization of that supernatural world and how we should deal with it. So anyway, those are my 10 books that I shared. And if you did this tag on Facebook, or if you have a list of books that really influenced you, let me know. I'd love to hear about them. But anyway, thanks for joining me, and I will see you next time.